How you doing? Welcome back. I am here with Rolf and Dirk in San Francisco. You want to say hi, gentlemen?
Hey world, welcome from San Francisco. Great to be here.
We're going to go inside because we realized, but there's the Salesforce Tower back there. They're coming in from Amsterdam. So we're going to have a little chat, but we're going to come inside for a bit and so you can see us better and hear us better. So thanks for joining us today. We're on, where are we? We're on the 38th floor of the Hilton here in San Francisco. Dirk, great to see you. We're finally doing something in person.
Absolutely. It has been a while.
It has been a while. So what's going on? For those who might not know, please introduce yourself and a little bit what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Dirk, CEO, founder of Crunchr. I love people analytics for already 15 years now. And I actually started my career as a consulting actuary. Can you imagine?
I can't imagine.
Yeah. I don't know if that's a compliment or not, but no, I mean, I love to apply elegant mathematics on the data that companies already have to help them make better decisions. It's has been a wonderful journey so far.
Yeah, and what you've done at Crunchr there in Europe has been astounding to watch, because you were a small company, not but 8 years ago or so, and now you're, very prominent, particularly in Europe, but you also are influential here in the United States. So thanks for coming on, and a little bit about Crunchr. Tell me what sets it apart. What is Crunchr all about?
Yeah, it's a self-service people analytics platform. We organize scattered data as a beautiful bento box. We organize it nicely. And then there's this layer on top that is the insights engine. And then basically we democratize the insights towards the HR dashboarding, the analytics, and the planning.
Okay.
And indeed, quite big in Europe, the only European platform provider. Very big on GDPR, on security. Yeah. And with that, we are conquering the US market.
It'll take, a week or two? Yeah.
Exactly. We're done by tomorrow.
Well, let's step back a little bit, because you've done some research on people analytics, and we'll get to that in a bit. How do you define, though, people analytics? Because people analytics, particularly for HR leaders right now, there's a lot of buzz about it, but there's been buzz in one form or another for 20 years.
Yeah.
And it's expanded, it's evolved over the years. So if someone is going to make an investment in a people analytics solution, why are they going to do that? What is lacking right now in many organizations that requires a solution like Crunchr?
Yeah, I mean, let's talk a bit about the buzz first, because indeed, every year there is a new trending topic in people analytics, predictive, prescriptive, and we're all fighting over each other to say what it is not. Mm-hmm. Quite frankly, I'm done with that discussion. Yeah. It's all really about impact, and no matter if you use a pie chart or if you use really advanced AI/ML, I couldn't care less. It's about a direct line of sight with business results.
Love it.
So that's the first thing. Second thing, HR analytics, workforce analytics, people analytics, they're all used, but they really mean different things, right? Mm-hmm. So the HR analytics is all about the processes, the people analytics about behaviors of an individual person, and the workforce analytics, which we are quite fan of, is about, group dynamics.
Right.
We see many companies that have a super keen interest in advancing into this space. Mm. They sit on a ton of data, and the business leaders say, we made investments in Oracle, in Workday, whatever, but we don't have too many insights. Yeah. What we like to do is we like to help these companies to really build a value case of how to start with people analytics and what the potential value is. Right. So we spend quite a bit of time on that before even we start talking solutions. Mm-hmm. I actually have a nice slide that I will share in a second with you.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can pull it up. There's actually one big thing that we always use to explain people analytics to business leaders. And actually, a kid understands it. I have twins, 13 years old, and they love to play this game, right? Clash of Clans. Uh-huh. And when I talked to them, I was like, so tell me more about this game. He said, Pop, it's super easy. You are conquering the world, you kill them all, and that's how you win. And I was like, okay, but how do you make decisions? Well, you need to make a lot of decisions, right? How many troops we have? Are we going to buy expensive troops, or are we going to deploy them from within, or we're going to develop them to become a better resource. And all these decisions is what big people do at companies in real life, but they don't have this dashboard. So these kids can only play this game if they know exactly how many troops they have, what is the overall health, how much time is left, money in the bank, and based on that, they make decisions. So this is actually what people analytics is to me. This is why I started. I wanted to build this class of clans dashboard.
So Dirk's board of directors is his kids.
Exactly. Well, it is actually true, because one of the things that really sets us apart is that we believe that people analytics can be simple. You know, we don't want to overcomplicate, make an exclusive club of people analytics. We need to open up.
Sure.
It's a community thing.
And it can be engaging. It doesn't have to be this dreadful
it can be fun. It can be fun. It can be drag and drop.
Go through scenarios and
exactly. Yeah. So the thing actually that I wanted to show you was what we call the triangle of impact. It's on the screen now, I believe.
Hide that.
Yeah. Thanks. The ugly thing. So when we talk about making business impact with people analytics, it's really about three things, right? It's about focusing on those $1 million questions. It's about productization, build product to help everyone answer these $1 million questions. And then adoption. We can have beautiful technology out there, but if you buy a $2 million solution and nobody's using it, hey, then it's useless. Right. So the thing that I'm quite passionate about is really about productization and about adoption. So what typically happens, maybe you recognize this from your days at Gap and other companies, you know, HR executives say, like, we sit on so much data. Hey, you're smart, you're good with Excel or Tableau. Why don't you export some data from the system and why don't you make something yourself? Yeah. So this is what people do. And this can be done in 2 months. You have a beautiful dashboard and whatever. And then the fun part starts, because then the business leaders basically say, like, oh, Al, you made this fantastic dashboard. Can you add these metrics? And by the way, this part of the company cannot see salaries and that part of the company cannot see German data. So basically what companies are building is exactly like this. Yeah. You know, it's a rock solid foundation of the ERP, of the Workday, of the SuccessFactors, whatever. And they start to mount all kinds of stuff on top. And the more weight they put on top, you know what's going to happen? It is going to fall apart. And how do these people know this? They say, like, you know, are these numbers correct, Al? Al, I've been waiting now for 2 months for these new features. Come on, where's the dashboard? It's getting slow, cannot get in. But especially the mistrust in their own data. 16.4% high potential talent turnover. Who are those people? This number can't be right. Well, and then the fun part starts. So then basically, what I love to do is challenge these people analytics teams a bit that build things themselves. It's like, you know, you're running into the limitations of your own success. Because the questions that you should really ask yourself is like, the moment that this gets big, you know, right now maybe you have 100 users on your self-built solution. But what if this gets big? What if all the managers will get access? And what happens if those 3 people that are developing this dashboard for you now leave the company? What's going to happen then? Right now, you're doing super cute analysis on turnover, some historic trends, whatever, valuable. But the questions will be more around predictive. You know, can we predict if people are leaving the company? Well, then this dashboard doesn't cut it anymore. Right. So out of the box, fast forward yourself, and then really think about.
It's what kind of tech you need. I mean, you're sharing. I'm like, oh, he gets me. Welcome to People Analytics Therapy.
Well, but this is the couch, right? For People Analytics Therapy.
Absolutely. But what you're saying is very, very true. And I think there's this idea, to your earlier point, that I, as a CHRO or business leader, I've made all these investments. Where are my insights? What do I need to do? I keep saying, oh, I need a person. I hire a data scientist. But they still need to be enabled by a technology that can scale and that can learn and grow. So again, going back to where we're heading, you know, given all this, you know, what do you see happening?
What I see happening is that more and more data sources are being connected. So there is this big dream of many companies to have one system that solves everything, right? But that's just not happening. I can't wait to be at the HR Tech again, where we're going to enjoy so many different point solutions that are just awesome sauce for specific domains. For example, the best recruiting solution, the best engagement solution, the best employee listening solution. companies are going for this best of breed strategy. So then it is super important that you start connecting all the dots between those systems. And that's really what we do in the core. Because if you have a HR system and you where you keep your pay, and you have an an engagement system, and these are not connected, then you can never really understand what the impact is of a promotion or a bit of a salary increase to the engagement, or relating engagement to productivity, or we just improved our onboarding experience. Do we see that back in less field hires? So it's these cross-functional connections that really start to make impact. So the first big thing that we see is companies created a lot of appetite for people analytics using the products they build themselves. They run into the limitation of their own success because they want to connect more and more solutions, but basically what they're doing is they're rebuilding a professional platform. And there is a reason why it took 7 years with more than 40 developers to build this. So at some moment, be a leader and think a bit further ahead of the North Star strategy, and then reverse engineer basically what you need.
Well, yeah, again, I hope that message lands with those who are listening, because it is the case that many CHROs and decision makers did not grow up with people analytics discipline as being part of their background. So understanding the work involved is critically important. And it is something where if you want to play the game with good information, then you need to make an investment in people, process, technology, and governance to move forward and really get the insight that you need. So one of the things, I have a couple questions. And by the way, if you're listening, you can ask questions. We can bring them on the screen here. But GDPR, obviously Europe has taken a lead, and you're based in Europe. So you have a unique view on that. When you talk about aggregating data, particularly down to the individual level, there are certain concerns or certain barriers now that is. So how do you approach not only GDPR but ethical standards as they start to?
So what I believe is that Europe is about 4 or 5 years ahead of the US. We were born and raised with GDPR. To give you an example, working with German companies, it is super possible, for example, to combine salary data in one system with performance data. But the questions that we get, okay, technically this is all possible, it comes from the same system, but what are you going to do if you're going to start relating performance with pay? Come on. So there's a whole ethical discussion in Europe around what can you do with the data. There's also a security and privacy component to it. And again, Europe is about 4 or 5 years ahead. You see things happening here in California. You see the New York Cybersecurity Act catching up. In Australia, they're doing the same. They're all copying the GDPR model. But basically what it means is that individuals have the right to opt out for analytics. So you need to build infrastructure for this. You have the right to be forgotten. Also, if you leave companies, at some moment in time, you need to start anonymizing the data because they implicitly withdraw the consent that you use the data. And then there are this is a new arrest that was brought up to the court. And you know what it said? Personal data on US cloud providers is not considered safe.
Wow.
This is the biggest thing ever. So when I was building my company, the person who is now our chief architect and who used to be, the cybersecurity god of a very big bank in the world, he told me one thing: Dirk, you are never going to host on AWS. You're never going to host on Microsoft or on Google because of personal sensitive data in relation to GDPR.
Wow.
It's big. It's evolving right now.
Wow.
So
that's something that obviously has to be dealt with. You can't just
exactly
wash your hands of that. That's something that I would love to return to in a later discussion. I mean, for now, because we only have a handful of minutes. And by the way, thank you. I mean, we've got Amit. How you doing, buddy? And we have people from all over the world actually watching. And Amit, I just saw you pose a question here, or a comment. Power accrues to employees with respect to sharing their data and opinions with their organization. Absolutely. And thank you for that. My question here, And I want to go back to adoption and the idea that organizations don't know. And when we hear about people analytics, many think about surveys, many people think about dashboards and what have you. There's also external data to the organization that sheds light on talent markets. So this idea that we're this micro level of people analytics, it's really expanding and growing. So what I'm getting at is many organizations, and particularly leaders who are thinking about this, are going to where the puck is, to use the Wayne Gretzky analogy, as opposed to where it's going. And so in my view, again, I'm biased, is that you need a technology like Crunchr or people analytics technology to actually make sure you're continually skating to where the puck is going. Would you agree with that? And is that
kind of agree.
Yeah.
We talked about the triangle of impact, the prioritization. We talked about productization, but just having good product is not good enough. It won't get you there. I would love to share my screen and to show you basically the first version of Google Maps.
That was powerful. You just waved your hand and it happened.
Exactly. Well, this is also new technology, right?
Right.
So when I was still living in New York, this was the very first version of Google Maps. And there was no manual, no nothing. And I looked at it and it says like, interesting. I can ask for flowers, pizza in San Francisco. It seems useful. And then when I scroll a bit down, there's like my recent searches, and I'm like, hey, that's easy. But I'm not going to use it yet. Until Al, my buddy, calls me and says like, Dirk, I'm here in San Francisco. We're going to eat ribs. Do you know a good place? And I'm like, hang on 1 second. Now there's a trigger to use Google Maps. It shows me the address. And the more I use it, everyone is using it. Google is improving Google Maps to the day today that it has even live traffic information. People analytics is exactly the same. So what we did is we developed a model together with the University of Amsterdam to really understand how people evolve in their journey from reporting into analytics. We looked at how doctors adopted technology. We looked at how the Formula One started to adopt technology. And this is basically the model that we are currently working on. It has exactly the same constructs. That first people need to think like, hey, people analytics can be useful. It can be easy, which leads to an intent to use. And then there needs to be a trigger. Like my CSRO say like, hey, this great resignation, what can we do about it? And then people start to use it. Then we start building the infrastructure around this. And then everyone is using it.
Nice.
Now, what we did was we did quite a bit of analysis on what drives what. And what you'll see here with the correlation coefficients is that basically your question earlier, does a tool solve everything? Absolutely not. There's a correlation of 0.3 by introducing a tool and the fact that every analytics, things in between. It's this journey. And our analysis really supports this. The other thing that we did was we worked with quite a few companies that say like, hey, you know what? We want to grow from reporting into real analytics. How do we get our HR buddies along this ride? So what we did was we used people analytics to understand the adoption of people analytics. And for example, with this company, there was it was really difficult to get these people in the analytics mode. So instead of looking behind what happened, understanding why is it happening and what are we going to do about it. And the factor that we saw preventing from this was the change fatigue. People were tired, undersourced, overworked. They didn't have mind space for just another project like people analytics. And this is now how we start to use people analytics in Crunchr to have hyper-personalized adoption strategies. Because I don't need to convince you for the power of people analytics. You're bought in. You just want to see, okay, how does it work? And off you go. But there's other people, I don't know, like my mother, that still didn't hear about people analytics. She's interested, but doesn't really know what it means. So everyone is on a different journey. And you can use very elegant mathematics to measure where people are on the journey to have a personalized recipe for adoption. So please, over with all these one-size adoptions, and I'm quite passionate about. So adoption.
Well, if we don't get what we're doing used, it's all for naught.
It's useless.
Obviously.
Yeah.
And where I want to land with this, and I know we're coming up on time, and again, if anyone has questions, by all means, jump in or comments for Dirk and me. But for Dirk, it's this, is that what is required financially and what is a realistic expectation of return to value? Because when we talk about building stuff in yourself as an organization, that takes time, right? And so the time to value is stretched out. Yeah. And it doesn't have to be that. So it's like, when I started in this work 20 years ago, it was like, okay, we're going to do a research project. It's going to take 2 or 3 months, like you're saying, and there's a big aha. Then you say, oh, that was great. This is adjusted and go back. But now that's not acceptable. You don't have 2 or 3 months to turn things around. Yeah. So can you talk about the productization, the scaling? Can you talk about the need for speed? I can't believe I just said that.
The need for speed, absolutely. Yeah. The technology implementation nowadays is super quick. The last clients we onboarded in just 2.5 weeks. Wow. Can you imagine?
Wow.
2.5 weeks from zero to fully implemented. But getting back to adoption, you want to show value. And that's why think about what we do in the quarterly value strikes. So we define this North Star of where we want to grow. And then we have quarterly value strikes. And every quarter we have a cool deliverable where our sponsor and the team shines with. And this could be very simple, of improving certain data quality, or having we build a VR experience for succession planning. You put in your Oculus Rift into Crunchr, and you walk through your succession plans in 3D, in VR, and you have a joystick. Amit was on the HR Tech. He actually used it. And then you can see these leaders in these virtual reality environments, and I can click on the leader with my joystick, and I can pull this leader, and the more the network contracts, the more pivotal this person is. Wow. Well, this is an experience for leadership. We need value strikes. So in 1 quarter, we're going to solve one pressing problem. Yeah. And that is important. But it takes time, and we need to be realistic on that.
Right. It is I almost said it is a journey. That's so cliche. I caught myself, so forgive me.
But let me give you another cliche, and that's also what I believe. This is what Eminem said: one shot, one opportunity. So you cannot reintroduce people analytics over and over and over again. Yeah. So you really have to think about your adoption strategy, a personalized adoption strategy, because one shot, one opportunity. Yeah. And it better be right from the get-go.
Right. Well, Dirk, you're firing me up. I appreciate what you're doing, how you do it. How can people learn more about you and what you're doing there at Crunchr?
Crunchr.com website. What we do is we do a lot of, we collaborate a lot with the community. And one of the things that I'm super passionate about is teaching, inspiring others, just like yourself, for the greater good. So what we developed was an open source game, basically, for business leaders and HR to connect together to feel the experience of people analytics.
Oh, that's cool.
The art of the possible.
Yeah.
So reach out, Dirk at CrunchRapps.com. Yeah. And then we can share the game.
All right.
It's cool.
Well, you're cool. Thank you for being cool.
And thank you, Al, for everything that you do for the community, because we need more people like you.
Thanks for that. I really appreciate it.
Cool.
Hey, thank you all for joining us. Appreciate you. Pass the word. We're going to be obviously doing things in person moving forward, and be there in Boston in early June. Amit, we'll talk about that. And again, you all be well, and see you soon.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi.
Have a good one.